Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Lucy Super Fox Show. This is my channel and podcast. In this week's episode, I want to talk to you about breaking the cycle of being yourself, what that means, like what that looks like, and how to freaking do it so that you can break free from not only the negative thought cycles that you might be caught in, but also the bad habits, the self-sabotage, the procrastination, and all the reasons that you don't have the life that it is you actually dream of, whether that's in body, business, money, or love. So without further ado, let's dive in. So the thing with bad habits is that we are labeling them bad habits versus just habits and behaviors that we're caught and stuck in. A huge part of the reason that we end up re-looping these habits and repeating them over and over is the shame that we put on ourselves when we do. Now, in the last couple of episodes, I've been diving deep into addiction, addictive cycles, and how you can even be addicted to your bad mood. So if you haven't already, make sure to go listen back to those episodes if this resonates and lands. So when it comes to bad habits, let's first look at the habit and work out whether it's always bad or good. The example I use a lot is if somebody was recovering from disordered eating, maybe going out for a coffee and a cake would actually be a real freeing moment for them, versus the person who needs to lose weight for their health and really desires to. So this is why it's not always about the behavior, about the habit, but it's about what it means. This is why when we label them bad habits or good habits, we also put ourselves in that bracket of bad or good. We put ourselves in that polarity, that duality, and ultimately what's founded in a lack mindset. That if we're not good, then we're bad. And if we're bad, that means something bad about us. And this comes from an energy that most of us probably grew up in this kind of scarcity or lack, that it was all about achievement. It was about performance. It was about being good. It was about being successful. It was about being right. It was about being the next best thing. And if it wasn't those things, then you were bad. And what that leads to is a scarcity mindset, that there is only good or bad. There is only this duality. And therefore, there's no room for the shades of grey, or there's no room for the in-between. When I first started therapy, I remember saying to my therapist, I was like, I'm just a very black and white person. It needs to be really clear for me. I need to be in this box or that box. And she said something so powerful that I've never forgotten. And that was, but life happens in the shades of grey. And so what a big part of breaking your bad habits is about is actually being able to recognize that they're not bad, that you're not bad, that it's not about being bad, and recognizing and witnessing and focusing on the habit in itself so that we can move out of this polarity and these extremes, this kind of one end to the other end life, and instead look at what's happening in the shades of grey and the in-between. And so the first thing to do is remove the shame. And look, that sounds like an easier said than done. But when we can remove the label bad habits, right? And we actually just focus on what are some of the habits that aren't serving me? What are some of the habits that I don't love versus what are my bad habits? Sometimes that pivot can be in enough of itself in a shift. So once we've witnessed these habits that aren't serving us or that aren't moving us in the direction of the life we want to go, the key thing is to actually ask ourselves what we get from this. You would not have created a habit or a behavior, no matter how much you hate it now, unless it was useful for you at some point in your life. So where was this habit or behavior useful? Was it mum and dad were arguing all the time and I found solace in the sweets cupboard? Was it I had a really stressful job and had no idea how to regulate my emotions and I found alcohol every night after work? Was it that when you went through a really difficult time, maybe a relationship breakup, you just couldn't bear the sound of silence, and so the television was on all the time? And I've experienced all these things. So it's not about the habit itself, it's about what it gives us. It's about what allows us to feel or not feel. And so first step, removing the bad or the good and looking at instead of the habit itself, what is it giving us? What is it leading us to? What emotional state is it creating? Because the answer to removing or changing or fixing a bad habit or a negative habit is actually nothing to do with the habit itself. And it's all to do what the habit is giving us. So when we can identify what the habit is giving us and give that to ourselves through something else. So let's say your habit gives you space. Let's say your habit gives you peace. Let's say your habit gives you an escape. How can we create ultimately those feelings? So the feeling of peace to me feels like calm. The feeling of escape feels like relief. Feeling of numbness, for example, feels like quiet. So how can you give yourself those feelings of peace, relief, of quiet? Maybe it's space. How can you give those things to yourself in a different way on the front end? We live in such a reactive world where it's all about fixing problems and changing symptoms. but actually it's about getting to the root cause. Not only are we looking at what started something and hoping to, clear and shift and change that, but if we start looking instead at, rather than trying to fix all the problems with a list of things we can tick off, instead we started creating things on the front end. So if you're looking to find peace, how can we create peace before you need your habit? How can we create a feeling of relief in your life every day so that your habit doesn't get to that compulsive stage? How can we create that feeling of like escape or soothing or whatever that feels like to you without you needing the food, right? And it's all about how can we create that on the front end so we don't need to react into the habit on the back end. And this is where the first step is always awareness, but awareness does not change behavior. Most of the women that I speak to that come through a free discovery call or that I speak to as part of any coaching packages, they're aware. Right? They're acutely, painfully, overtly aware of their bad habits, sabotaging behaviors, the ways they hold themselves back. So knowledge doesn't change us, right? It's the action that does. It's about what we do with that knowledge. And willpower is not the reason that you haven't followed through, right? I've said this 1,000 times. It's 95% programming versus 5%, right? So you've got 5% willpower and conscious choice over 95% programming. So the second step isn't to willpower our way through change. The second step is actually to start reprogramming what we believe about this area, reprogramming how we feel about this thing, reprogramming the beliefs that we hold about this particular bad habit. And this is why getting stuff done on the front end to help, one, not only release the trigger so we don't end up triggered in the first place, but two, that we actually then start to create space between us and the habit. Because it's much like when you're in the depth of a problem, it feels like this massive, immense thing. And actually, when you zoom yourself out, you take yourself away for an hour, you go for a walk, you go on vacation, you take a breather or a beat, right in the middle of an argument, and you go, right, let's just take 5 minutes. That sense of space between you and the problem, when you're actually able to create it, one, we de-identify with it. And so therefore we're able to separate it from us, right? And who we are and what that means about us. But two, when we have space, we're able to witness what it's actually doing to our life, both in the negative sense, but also in what it's creating for us. And then when we're able to see, oh, you know what, my emotional eating habit is the only way I'm creating relaxation in my life. Okay, let's look at some strategies for how I can create relaxation in my life before I need the food. And so the biggest step for shifting your bad habits really is, first of all, witnessing that they're not bad or good. They just are. They've been created as some kind of strategy that's helped you cope and helped you deal, right? The second step, once we have that awareness, is to look at what they're helping us feel or not feel, and how can we create that feeling and that state for ourselves on the front end. And three is then to create that space and distance so that we have that room to do that. I mean, this is exactly what we do inside the Cycle Breaker program, which is open for enrollment now. We're running a very, very special addiction edition for those of you who are caught in particular cycles, whether it's with overworking and hustle, whether it's with food, whether it's with alcohol, whether it's with TV, social media, or scrolling. We are running a very special version of my Cycle Breaker 21 challenge, 21-day challenge, 21 days to breaking the cycle of being you so that you can step into that new identity you've been dreaming of. And in this special edition, my gorgeous friend Sarah, who's a naturopathic and functional nutritionist, is joining us to talk about dopamine. And she's also going to be sharing a free dopamine detox guide, as well as a cheat sheet for dopamine and a dopamine meal plan to support the 21-day mindset and emotional shift transformation. So if you are ready to create that space, not just the awareness that you probably already have because you're a self-aware, intuitive, intelligent woman, the fact that you're listening to this podcast tells me that already. So if you are ready to do that, then you can register to join us at lucysuperfox.com/addiction. And you can find out more about how that program works and jump into the 21-day challenge. Enrollment closes on the 19th of May. So if that's how we shift and change the bad habit, how do we create the new one? Well, once we've created that space and that distance, this is where we have that capacity. We're increasing that capacity of that 5% to be able to implement either some new behaviors or some new thought patterns. But that space is really the key to be able to do that. Otherwise, we're always acting from compulsion. We're acting from this energy of just like it happens on autopilot. It's very difficult to change something you're not aware of. And if you're aware aware of it, it's very difficult to change something that's compulsively happening without your conscious choice. And this is why it's really important to follow something or provide that accountability or have that support so that you can not only create that space, but you can learn and integrate the lessons from doing that and then shift into the next behavior, the next lesson, whatever the next direction is for you instead. And this is exactly what we do inside Cycle Breaker. So that's bad habits. Let's talk about negative thought cycles. It's very similar as a process, but the difference is this. Our thoughts run around in our head. And look, do you know what? Actually, fun side note for you here. Not everybody hears voices in their head. Now, I hasten to bet that you do because you're here, because you probably, like me, have struggled with high functioning anxiety. You ruminate, you worry, you overthink. Hello, recovering, always in recovery. I believe that we're never recovered, we're never healed. We're always healing and recovering. So as a highly functioning, anxious, recovering person here, I know for sure the intensity of thoughts that race around your mind like they're on a Formula One track. I know the intensity of the constant need to do something, this burning feeling inside my solar plexus of kind of like this energy that I need to channel and process and move through. And if you have ADHD, you'll have this times 10, right? So it can be really challenging or feel really impossible to break negative thought cycles when we feel this sense of angst or this sense of anxiety. And the first step, much like the others, is to witness and recognize that there are no such things as negative and positive thoughts. There are only thoughts. And to recognize secondary, and these are beliefs you're going to have to adopt if you want to change this, right? Like, I'm not saying this is an instant overnight fix. The second thing is that your thoughts are not you. Now, the way I love to help my clients really witness this, the fact that your thoughts are not you, is to just sit and take 5 seconds now. And I bet you heard some thoughts in your head, or you were listening for my voice and you went, oh my God, what's she doing? Is she pausing? Are we supposed to be doing something right now? The fact that you heard that, the fact that you heard it means it's not you, right? It's not the soul of you. It's not the whole of you. It's not the fullness of you, because the fact that you could hear it. The second way, and this was a great awareness technique that I learned through training as a root cause therapist, was to ask yourself this question, especially when the thoughts are racing. Where is my next thought coming from? And they all stop. And it's wild. So whenever your brain is going at 10,000 miles an hour, one of those techniques, stop and witness that they're not you. The fact that you can hear them says they're not you. Or two is to ask yourself that question, where is my next thought coming from? You will be mind blown, right? But why this is so freaking powerful is because when we witness that our thoughts are not the fullness, the wholeness, and the truth of us, what we realize is that they're not true. They don't have to be true. Just like the habits and the behaviors, they are programs. They are things that we have run, like watching reruns of Friends, right? They are reruns that we have run over and over and over and over. And I'm sure you could quote lines from your favorite TV program or a book that you've read or songs that you love, right? I can do that. Someone will say something, I can finish the freaking sentence in a music lyric. I do it all the time, right? And that is because I have programmed and run those loops in my mind over and over and over and over. And that's the same thing with your thoughts. Your thoughts create your feelings create your action creates your results. And then you think about your results and go, well, that's crap. That makes you feel crap. Then you act the same way again because you feel shame, you feel down, you fall into the bad habit, you shame yourself again. I'm a bad person, I'm a terrible person. You feel the shame again. We take the same action again, and round and round and round and round and round we go. So just like with the habit itself and the behavior itself, we have to create that awareness. And though that exercise is so powerful, once we have the awareness and that real sense of, oh, hey, that's not true, then it really is about, again, creating space. It's about creating space between us and our thoughts. And this is what meditation is designed to do. The challenges of meditation is that if you have a highly dysregulated nervous system, so you are somebody who is in fight or flight, you are somebody who experiences on an ongoing basis high functioning anxiety, the angst in your solar plexus, right? Meditation probably isn't the best first step, because you'll be sit there with your thoughts racing going, this is stupid, I can't do this, I'm bored, what are we doing next, what are we eating for breakfast, I'm hungry, right? So you're not creating space. Now, either you can try and willpower your way through that too, or you can find other ways to create that sense of space between you and your thoughts. You know, one of my favorite ways to do that is to go for a walk with no music, no sound, or to go with music that's like 111 hertz or 423 hertz, or find like a music frequency that's relaxing and peaceful that helps your brain waves, right? And it's all to do with brain waves. That's all different hertz music really does, is stimulate different layers of brain waves all the way through from alpha to theta. So I just find a frequency that feels good to me and I walk at a pace, and that allows my mind and those thoughts to quiet down and turn off. And that space allows me to witness again that those thoughts are not me, but also allows me to feel how I'm really feeling. So much of the reason that we have the negative thought cycles and the bad habits in the first place is because we have pushed down for years how we really, really feel, how we really feel about our business, how we really feel about our marriage, how we really feel about life, how we really feel about ourselves mostly. Right? Because you're here for you. Yeah. And so when we have suppressed all those feelings, eventually at some point, I've talked about the volcano theory before, they're going to explode just like a volcano. And so unless we are creating enough space for ourselves to actually feel those things, even in small doses, 60 seconds here or there, to feel, oh, I feel a bit worried. Oh, I feel a bit sad. Oh, do you know what? I actually feel real joy for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds in that space. That's when we start to process. That's when we start to move through. And that is when we start to witness that those thoughts really are just loops on repeat. Now, the next step, right, is the reprogramming, just like the habits. So just like in habits, we would be creating peace and space through doing this walk, right? And that would allow you to create more room in your thoughts. This is where the reprogramming of the hypnosis, the affirmations, the journaling, the scripting, all these techniques come in, but it's not the technique that does the work. And this is why I get so angry about people saying affirmations are the answer to changing your mind. They're absolutely part of the puzzle. They're part of the recipe. They are not the answer. The answer is you having space from the current thoughts that you have to create room, right? To one, feel how you really feel and process how you really feel. Because if you're not processing how you really feel and you're throwing affirmations on the top, you're still suppressing. And when we're still suppressing, we're still feeling those low vibe, negative emotions, negative feelings, leading to those negative behaviors. And we're just talking a good game, right? So there is this gap where we have to feel how we really feel. We have to feel the anxiety and the sadness and the frustration. And most commonly with my clients, the suppressed rage, right? That was my biggest one. I started to get really angry about everything. But by expressing that through varying means, working with practitioners, breath work, sound baths, daily exercise, massage, Reiki, all the things, that created so much room for me to start intentionally knowing what I was putting back in, right? So what I was writing in my journal wasn't just me venting and, it was then thinking, okay, this is what I desire. And that feels safe to me. And, this is what I truly am grateful for, rather than trying to throw gratitude on feeling resentful, right? And so this is where that then is the strategy for building new, for reprogramming. But we can only do it once we've made space to do that. And this is why Cycle Breaker is such an amazing first step to healing. It's such an amazing 21-day challenge to really beginning the breaking the cycle, right? It's not going to take you all the way from here to millions. It's not going to take you all the way from, 0 to 100% confident. But what it is going to give you, and this is why I love it so much, is that those first steps. And it's going to give you a walkthrough, step-by-step, 21-day roadmap to actually breaking the cycle, so that you can intentionally create space, so that you can intentionally reprogram, so that you can intentionally take those steps towards the thing you actually want with your body, with your business, with your money, with your marriage, with whatever. So the key to breaking bad habits and negative thought cycles is 1, awareness. 2, it's then really creating that space between you and the cycle, you and the thoughts. And 3, it's then stepping into the energy of that future self and reprogramming from getting out ahead of it, from getting in front of it, from doing the things ahead of time, rather than when we get to the place where we're reacting. Because if we're having to react, we have then acted out an old version of us. So if you are ready to break the cycle of being yourself so that you can step into your future self with ease, with grace, with joy, and with purpose and passion, then you can join me inside the very special Healing Addictions version of Cycle Breaker by going to lucysuperfox lucyfox.com/addiction. Enrollment is open until the 19th of May at midnight UK time. So I hope you've loved this episode. If you have, I would love for you to like, subscribe, to share this with any friends that you know are battling with these negative thought loops, with these bad habits, and feel like they are stuck in cycles of self-sabotage. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else you would like me to dive into on my future episodes, and I will see you on the next one.